If your home recently came off the market unsold, I want you to hear this first. You did not fail. Your house did not fail. And an expired listing does not mean your home isn't sellable. What it means is that your home didn't sell during the time it was listed. That's it. But I know that's probably not how it feels, because if you've spent weeks or even months keeping your house show ready only to see the listing expire, you're probably frustrated, maybe disappointed, maybe even wondering if selling is still worth it. And if that's where you're at, you're not alone. Today, I want to talk about why listings expire, what most homeowners do wrong after an expiration, and the steps that can help turn an expired listing into a successful sale. And I'll share a piece of data that surprises a lot of homeowners, because if your listing expired, your next move matters more than you think. Let's start with the biggest question. Why do listings expire in the first place? Many homeowners immediately assume the answer is, my house must be overpriced. And while price can absolutely be a factor, it's rarely the only factor. In fact, expired listings usually happen because of a combination of things. Sometimes it's pricing, sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's photography, sometimes it's buyer perception, sometimes it's condition, and sometimes it's simply strategy. Think about this. In today's market, buyers have more choices than they've had in years. They're comparing your home against every other available property. If something causes them to hesitate, they move on. That's why selling a home today requires more than simply putting it on the MLS and waiting. The truth is that many agents are still using strategies that worked several years ago, back when inventory was low and buyers were competing for every home. But that's not today's market. Today's buyers are more selective. They're spending more time researching and comparing properties online first. And they're looking closely at value. That means sellers need a more intentional approach than ever before. Relistings are also trending higher. Now, here's something interesting. Take a look at this data showing the percentage of homeowners with expired listings who eventually sold after relisting. What stands out is this. Homeowners who relisted with a different agent had a higher success rate than those who relisted with the same agent. The difference may not seem huge, but when you're talking about selling one of your largest financial assets, it's significant. A different agent means a different strategy. Here's the biggest mistake I see. A listing expires, the seller is disappointed, and then they simply relist the property exactly the same way. Same photos, same description, same strategy, same pricing, and they hope the outcome changes, but if nothing changes, buyers may continue to pass it by. That's why expired listings deserve a complete review, not just a relaunch, a review. When I sit down with a homeowner, I start by asking questions. Questions like, how many showings did the property receive? How many online views? What feedback did buyers leave? Were there offers? If not, why not? Did buyers mention price, condition, competition? Because the answers tell a story, and that story usually reveals where the opportunity is. Let's talk about pricing. It's often the easiest thing to blame, but pricing isn't about what a seller wants. It's about how buyers perceive value. Sometimes a small adjustment creates a major difference in activity. It suddenly becomes more competitive against other available inventory. Other times, the issue has nothing to do with price. It comes down to marketing. Let's be honest. Today's buyers shop online first. Your home's first showing usually happens on a phone screen. That means photography matters, video matters, social media matters. If buyers aren't stopping to click, they may never even schedule a showing. Sometimes it's condition. Maybe it's outdated paint or worn flooring. Something small can create a bigger perception issue for the buyer. The good news? Many of these items can be corrected without spending a fortune. The key is identifying which improvements actually create a return. One reason homeowners have better results with a different agent is simple. Fresh eyes. Someone new notices things that others may have stopped seeing. Here's what I want you to understand. An expired listing is not the end of the story. In fact, many expired listings eventually sell for strong prices. The key is figuring out what wasn't working and making strategic adjustments. That's where the opportunity is, not in doing more of the same. Now, I want to share a couple of real-life examples because this isn't just data I've read about, it's something I've experienced firsthand. One of the most memorable expired listings I've worked with was a home in Indian Wells. By the time the sellers reached out to me, the property had already been listed with 5 different agents. I was the 6th agent to take on the listing. Imagine the frustration they were feeling. After multiple listing agreements, months on the market, and several failed attempts to get the home sold, they were understandably skeptical that another agent could produce a different outcome. But instead of simply relisting the home the same way, we completely changed the approach. We reevaluated the marketing strategy. We invested in new photography and visual assets. We focused on reaching the right buyers through a more targeted plan. Most importantly, we looked at the home with fresh eyes and positioned it differently. The result? We generated serious buyer interest. Ultimately, we secured an offer that exceeded the seller's expectations and successfully brought the transaction to a close. Sometimes it's not the house that's the problem. Sometimes it's the strategy. Another example involved a home in an active adult community. The property had previously been listed with another agent, and the seller was frustrated by the lack of results. What actually led them to contact us was seeing another listing we were actively marketing in the same community. They noticed the difference in how we presented properties and reached out for a conversation. After reviewing the home and developing a fresh plan, the seller decided to relist with us. This time, we focused heavily on strategic marketing and creating excitement around the property before it hit the market. We promoted the home aggressively and hosted an open house designed to maximize exposure. The result was almost immediate. A buyer attended the very first open house, fell in love with the home, and ultimately purchased it. What had been a frustrating experience turned into a successful closing. It happened because we approached the marketing differently and connected the home with the right buyer. The reason I share these stories isn't to suggest that every expired listing sells overnight. Every home is different, every market is different, and every seller's situation is unique. But these examples show why getting a fresh perspective can make such a difference. When a listing expires, the answer isn't always lowering the price dramatically or giving up on selling altogether. Sometimes the answer is stepping back, identifying what wasn't working, and creating a new strategy that gives the home its best chance to succeed. That's how we get results. So if your listing recently expired, start by getting a second opinion. Another perspective can reveal opportunities that may have been overlooked. I'd be happy to take a look. No pressure, no obligation, just honest feedback. Send me a message or DM me the word expired. I'll review your listing and tell you the first changes I'd make. Because your home didn't fail, the strategy may have. I'll see you in the next video.